The Shadow Crew Podcast.
I could never tell what country he was from in that movie. Bloodsport, where he like looks at the camera.
Little Irish dude walking around doesn't sound like that's going to go too well.
Volume 2, that's the best spaceships of all time.
He-Man's powers.
It does come with its own castle.
And he dies in the first episode of the movie.
Oh no, sir! He's in the entire film. Sit back, get your popcorn, and enjoy your note taking on that epic film.
Well,
all right. We're not live this week.
No.
We are recorded this week. Welcome to another episode number 28 of the Shadow Crew podcast on the Shadow Knows Network. As you can see, we are missing one of the four. Mr. Chet Maddox has joined Kevin Smith and the team on the Jay and Silent Bob cruise, or whatever the hell it's called. So I'm sure we'll have tons of video and content for future channels as Chet mingles with the crew. But I'm excited to be here. We are not live. We will be back live next week, 7 p.m. Pacific time, only on the Shadow Knows Network, multi-streaming. But thanks for tuning in. I'm excited. First off, there's a couple of updates that we want to talk through. But at the end of this stream will be another best of series, or should I say worst of series, or it should just be the most epic encounter in action movie history. And that will be Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Steven Seagal. Who had the best film between them, and then who had the worst series of films? We're going to jump right into it. But how's everyone doing? I'm dialing in remote. I'm not at the home arcade this evening, but I was so excited about this topic I had to patch in because I'm a big fan of Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme. I love diving into the discount bins at Walmart. A huge fan. So what do you all think about the best of, and how's the week been so far?
Yeah, you can get the entire Seagal collection for about $20, I think. Every film.
Yeah, and that's Blu-ray right there. It's like there's spared no expense and everything, you know. Well, you know, hey, I was bummed out. I remember I was talking to Chet as he was willing to deal on the boat. He's like, I think I could do it. And then as you see the technical difficulties, it's like, it'll be the three of us tonight.
Well, I will say it's the only time you could go to the Goodwill and they donate DVDs to you. And that is Steven Seagal and JCVD. But there's some good movies in there, so I'm excited to get into that. But first off, some hot topics of the evening. Some news that happened. First off, I think we all know that the physical media is dying. It is dead in a lot of cases. We've talked about this on previous casts. Best Buy, I think, has announced finally there are no more physical assets in their locations, which is crazy. So you can't even really find. I think Walmart or Target might be the last of the bunch to have any form of physical media. But the latest update was that Disney and Sony signed a deal where Sony will take over all physical media for Disney, which is an interesting move. So I guess the question is, like, what do you think's behind it? Is just Disney just basically pawning this off to Sony and saying, hey, we don't want to deal with it anymore? Or is there more to this strategy? So let's start with that.
I think there's more to the strategy. First of all, it kind of like it kind of goes in the same way that toy market's kind of done things where some of the bigger companies are farming out their work to the smaller companies, and they're willing to not take the risk on it. And the smaller companies are like, if everything goes good, then they're fine. Sony, look, we know that out of like several Hollywood studios, Sony's ranking near the bottom. Their release windows have been terrible. They have destroyed the Spider Verse, and they've only done that. They only took them 2 films to do that. We still got a couple more coming. I think Sony needs this because other than Sony being on Netflix, that's the only relevance that they have. So as a business model, it's a smart deal for them. It's a smart deal for Disney. Um, there's a point where I think physical media is going to make a bounce back only because right now, when you look at the market, people are starting to be turned away from streaming. Initially, streaming was catch all, everything's going to be there. If you have Disney Plus, every movie that you've ever wanted to see will be at your hands. And now, because of due to the strikes and everything else that's popped up and COVID, now it seems like the streamings aren't making as much revenue. And the old model of like, we'll put some movies on HBO, we'll put some movies over on this channel, we'll put some movies on this streaming channel. That's how they've been able to make their revenue. So I think, and also Disney is very keen to one thing. I think this is a way to sneak them in to see if they can get somehow the rights back to Spider-Man. I think they're playing nice with Sony. And I think there's got to be something because, like, Disney's not doing this out of the kindness of their own heart, but I'm sure this deal is somehow leveraged at one point or another. Hey, we can probably retain the rights back to Spider-Man because, like Fox, that's the end all be all of the game, man.
Yeah. First of all, Sony doesn't have nearly the library that Disney does. Sony titles, physical, are not going to sell as well as Disney titles. So it's an immediate win for them, you know. Second of all, it seems stupid since they just came out like 2 or 3 years ago with the 4K. You have to buy another Blu-ray player. This one is 4K, and you have to get a special TV for it as well. But if they stop making 4K discs, then no one's gonna buy the player, and no one's gonna buy the TV. Maybe they'll buy the TV, but they're cutting out part of their entire business. It seems kind of stupid to me, especially since they just started it. And you were right about streaming, right? If you liked Willow, well, you can't watch that on Disney anymore. They got rid of it. If all these particular things, if you actually like something, you can go and buy it and have it forever, and not at the whim of, oh, well, Max doesn't want to carry this anymore, and they're going to cut off a couple $1 million on their taxes and just not have it available. So.
And I thought that the one thing too, I was debating this with someone else earlier in the day, is that at one point, physical media, I remember like, people having like a wall full of like, DVDs or Blu-rays and everything else. And I think streaming had made it so convenient because it's like, oh, my library is digital now. I don't have to worry about it, or I can pay for this service. But now, people are pulling out those old DVDs they put in storage, and because you can't watch certain things anymore. You don't have access to it. So I think the streamers have done something to help the industry in a way, but also jog it back to a later and earlier point, because I do think if it's going to be some obscure program that you're not going to see again, that you're going to want to have the DVDs too. So I think it's smart for Sony to build this back up, and I wouldn't be surprised if other companies started to do that as well.
Well, I just stumbled across this issue because over the weekend I wanted to watch the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. By the way, that animation is really cool. I gotta say, yes. I know a lot of people are, it's not the original TNT, and they replaced some of the characters with different. But the animation style was like next level. I really appreciate it.
Like the Spider-Verse is, but yes, own version of it. It was unique.
Yeah, for sure. But I was like, oh, I remember watching this on on NBC. Is it Peacock? So I was like, oh, I'll immediately pull it up, and I'm like, where the hell did it go? And it's not available anymore. So I'm like, well, what the heck? So then like I search on the Apple TV, and it's like you could rent or buy. I'm like, well, I don't want to rent this, and I don't want to buy. Like, if I'm gonna buy something again, it goes like it could disappear. Like, I want the physical thing. So then I tracked it down on Paramount Plus, and we watched it there. But again, it goes back to like these things jump around from streaming service to streaming service, and it was just like that kind of movie I would have just bought, and it would have probably been something cool, some inserts, like a little box set, like where I could just grab it, pop it in. The similar to the vinyl records that people have collected over the past 15, 20 years. Like, I hope that there is a revolution of digital assets and they're reproduced to some capacity, because I do mix. And a couple casts ago we talked about it, some of the cool box sets I've got. Some of the old DVDs and Blu-ray stuff I still have, because it's just, you can't get it anymore. I got the Back to the Future collection on Blu-ray. I've got like The Godfather. Like, that's just, it's like something tangible. So I think it's a big mistake. I don't know what the intentions here with Sony or Disney are going to be, but at the end of the day, we know like physical media has been sunset, and hopefully it makes its return. But I'm just tired of finding what service is going to be on. Netflix drops it, and now it's on Hulu, and then Hulu dumps it, and like, what the hell, man? Like, it's just ridiculous. So
I loved the extras, all the behind the scenes stuff. They had little documentaries, and there was cool things, and different ones. Like, some even have the script, some have promotional photos and all the deleted scenes. So you're just missing out on a bunch of stuff. And if you really like a movie, that's something that you're interested in. At least I was.
Yeah. I just recently, as an arcade collector, just got, you all know, the Terminator 2 old school retro arcade. And as a feature in the arcade, they have the extras and behind the scene footage of the movie itself. And so I literally pulled up a stool and watched that. And it was like so cool to see like how the making of. So to your point, Dr. Brantley, that's something that's like missed. But I was like literally watching that thing for 15 minutes of like how they made like Liquid Terminator and like the production, and just those are the cool things. So I hope it changes, but right now, like, streaming is super accessible. I'm on the road, so I can pop open my laptop and watch anything. So I do appreciate the convenience, but there should be a balance for sure.
Absolutely.
Speaking of content, Star Wars: The Bad Batch Season 3 has been released recently on Disney Plus, and so we've talked about animation seem to be heading in a more positive direction with the likes of the Star Wars universe, Marvel universe, DC. Like, so it was really highly rated the first 2 seasons. I don't know if you have watched season 3. There's a couple of episodes that have been released, but your thoughts thus far on season 3? I don't know. Is this the final season? Have they said that?
Yeah.
It is the final season.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the first couple of episodes? Is it hold true to the series? Is it still, what people have said? Has it been pretty solid overall for a Star Wars franchise?
Well, first of all, I'll give them credit for they dropped the 3 episodes on Wednesday, and it's a 15 episode season. So if you're going to tell a story, at least you're going to get to actually. There shouldn't be anything left out on it, because when it's 8 episodes, you've got to cut to the meat and potatoes and get rid of this. They should be able to tie up all loose ends with 15 total episodes. Animation's fantastic. Dave Filoni and the teams of animators over there know what they're doing. The writing on this has been, look, I thought the writing on the first season was a slow burn into it. Second season took off extremely well, and I was not expecting a cliffhanger at the end of the second season. And it kind of resolved that in a good way in the first 3 episodes. So they don't linger. It moves kind of quick. You get to see characters moving back and forth. And there's a couple of surprises that I did not expect to see, and a couple of throwbacks and also throw forwards to the last sequels that they did, because there's a plot point in there that developed into that. There's a plot point that developed from The Mandalorian. There's a plot point that developed from the original trilogy and the Clone Wars. So they did a good job of tying all this together in a middle part of an actual series. So I think it's going to branch out well. And, and I'm looking forward to what's the next piece of major animation, because while they might be done with this, there's probably going to be something else they're going to develop that they're probably already working on.
Yeah, I'm still catching up on season 2. But because of what I've seen of season 3, I'm interested in getting to that point, because they did show that it was like the Emperor and his guards and shit, and I'm like, oh, okay, so we're getting into some serious stuff. I'll check it out.
Yeah, they did a lot of like Star Wars lore, things that we hadn't really seen, and like the Clone Wars itself. This is truly at the thrust of the Mandalorian stage, and between the two of them, and you kind of see where things are going. And you're like, wow, like it's amazing. But the animation and the writing, and of course the voice actors, are all fantastic. There's so many great characters they've written, and the animated universe, I think, is almost eclipsing the live action universe to a certain extent, because there's so many vivid characters and things that move from animation to live action. And again, you're wondering, what's the fate going to be of the Bad Batch? Are we going to see these characters in live action format, or do they make it? It's a tense third season, so they've done a great job on this one right now.
I wonder if there's something to, because I think the problem has been in a lot of cases where actors that are surrounded by green screens find it very difficult to produce quality acting, especially if you're interacting with a lot of like CGI visual effects, like characters that don't exist. You're talking to a dummy, or you're talking to somebody who inevitably will be an alien. But it seems to be with a lot of the animation, the acting is really good, the voice actors, and yet they're reading from a script. They may be in the same room, but like, I wonder why the difference in that, why there isn't as much of like, geez, that's some bad, like, versus, doing that. There's got to be something to that, especially when it comes to some of the really great animation.
I think they're just used to it, right? Because that's all they've ever known is,
Yeah,
this is
you're
my
right.
job, is sitting in a room and reading the script and giving it emotion. Whereas if you're an actor, it's like, I'm on the stage, I'm, interacting with another character, and I can work off of their emotion. If you've seen poor Ian McKellen, like on the first Lord of the Rings, he is doing fine and he loves it working with actual actors, and they did it with forced perspective. And then in the Hobbit movies, he was on a green screen and alone, so that they could put all these other guys in and shrink them. And he just didn't know what the hell was going on. He's just like, oh, what is, leave me alone for a minute.
Well, you've got, also too, an actor of Ian McKellen's status. He's done it for so many years, one dimensional. And then you go into this all new digital age of things. And I'm sure that the acting, the one thing about animation is you do have the other actors. And if they're doing it like the collaboratorial version, because sometimes there's certain people that are just in the room and they're voice the house and they do it and they do the lines, and then there's some where they're all in the studio together. And I think the Disney features are mostly all encircled, or the characters are all interacting. And I've seen some of the behind the scenes of those, and there's actors moving about and actually really giving performances, and you can kind of feed off that compared to, again, somebody talking to, like, tennis balls and they're stuck there. Interaction is the key. And also they didn't go out and just get actors that were just Hollywood actors. They got character actors that had been in animation. So, they've had some years to practice and work on their crafts. So, but you got to give them credit. 15 episodes is like, again, when I knew, I said, well, there's no way we should be left wondering. This should hit us where you've got the time to write and truly phase out these characters. And, again, you're just wondering what the ride's going to be. But it's fantastic. They had throwbacks to certain characters that we saw in the prequels. So it's very interesting how they did this season. So it's very good. And I'm like, again, the Emperor showing up is one of the highlights, because every time he does show up, it's kind of like an epic scenario, and they did it again, and it's just another great surprise.
Yeah. Well, continue. It's getting some really great Rotten Tomatoes reviews. A couple of episodes in, so pretty consistent with the overall theme of the general series. So for those of you who haven't checked it out and you're interested in animation, or maybe you're not into animation, but maybe this is a really great stepping stone to further discovering some really great animation. Here you go. But it is now time, gentlemen, for our best of or worst of series of the evening.
Yeah, this is where
Are
the
you
best
all
of
ready?
series collide with our box office graveyard.
That's right. For those of you who are listening or viewing, please like, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. So please do that. This is fun for us, but we like presenting our thoughts and ideas. Drop us a comment if you'd like to see any additional best of series on the channel, exclusively here on the Shadow Knows Network. So to recap again, it's a 32 bracket, 32 movies, 16 Jean-Claude Van Damme and 16 Steven Seagal. Now, we know there are more than just 16 movies from each of those actors. We tried to select the best of, because there's a lot of straight DVD and garbage. Not to say that what we are going to discuss today is not garbage either. We will narrow down the field to the best movie between them, and then also do a recap. And I think it'll organically be told of who's got the better films and who has the worst films. So,
Now,
without
let me
further
ask you
ado,
something.
yes.
Let me just pose this one question to you. If an actor was in a movie for only 5 to 10 minutes, does that count as a total appearance of the film, right?
Well, I did leave off the most iconic Steven Seagal film, because that is not a Steven Seagal film. That is a Kurt
Executive
Russell.
decision.
That is
Yeah.
a Kurt Russell film.
I was
So
just
that did not count.
because you
No.
say he's in a better film, you're kind of putting Seagal at a disadvantage, because obviously
No, that was not a part of a
So
Steven
executive
Seagal
decision
movie.
has been banned. Okay, just
It
want to make
has
sure.
been
Thank you for
banned.
the clarity. Thank you
The best of Kurt Russell, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so let's proceed with our first matchup, and it is Above the Law versus Legionnaire. So we're picking the best of the two. I mean,
This one's above the law.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just a Legionnaire. I don't even know what to say.
This is not even one where we even need the Rotten Tomatoes or anything else like that. If there's anything you can stomach, it's Above the Law. But Legionnaire was terrible. Terrible.
Hey, can we name this after a disease? Legionnaires. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Above the Law is like a really good cheesy 80s action flick, over the top, good action sequences.
Look, if he doesn't have Above the Law, I don't know if he's still eating today, brother.
Was that first, or was Out for Justice first?
I think it was Out for Justice, and I think it was Above the Law was his second film.
Yeah,
because I mean, he came out strong.
He did.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then after a couple more, he went right off the edge.
It's funny, his hairline improved as his movies got worse. So I don't understand how that all worked. But next up is Van Damme, the infamous Hard Target. So for those of you who have seen our intro where he punches the Cobra, that is from that movie. And I'll be honest with you, I've never seen The Patriot. I thought Mel Gibson did this film, but maybe this is the alternate version with Steven Seagal.
No, I've seen this one.
That would be hilarious. Just do The Patriot as it is,
yes,
but replace Mel Gibson with Steven Seagal.
Well, I'm sure his executive would probably do that. And, this one's Hard Target.
Yeah,
this is a fairly easy one. These are going to be either extremely easy or extremely difficult.
I think when he filmed this movie, they were like, what poster do you envision? And he was like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I want you to take like Dances with
Exactly.
Wolves and kind of make me like a Kevin Costner look. And they were like,
That's
okay, we got it.
exactly that's
But
exactly the vibe. Like
my
a rip
face
off
needs
of
to be
Dances with Wolves.
3/4 of the
Yeah,
poster, though.
exactly. Yeah, because you almost can't even tell what's going on at the bottom of the thing, man. For God's sake.
Well, the title is smaller than his name. I
Exactly.
mean,
Okay,
Oh,
this is
here
oh
we
boy.
this is another easy one, and yes, I have seen both of these, and wow, and I don't even know how John Claude Van Damme got wrapped up with this movie because it's harder to find somebody that equally cannot act worse than him in the movie, and he found that. And if I believe there's another movie with Rob Schneider and him in it, and it's like wow, but this one's On Deadly Ground is the better film. Steven Seagal is he might be climbing up the ladder here.
Well, I will
And yeah,
say,
Michael
Michael
Caine,
Caine. Yep, Michael Caine.
a good bad guy, as bad as it is, it's better than Double Team.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this the next film after Under Siege? I think was
It
On
might have
Deadly
been
Ground.
because
I
this
think
is
this
when,
was
because again, my company did work
no,
on the trailer for
yeah.
this.
But there is hope. And now, he's here. Steven Seagal is on deadly ground. Now this land has a friend.
In you, I've seen a great spirit.
These people have a warrior.
Did you beat up on this little native man?
And this corporation
Find me a buddy or find me the man.
has a big problem.
And the whole thing was he wanted to do his thing, so they let him have a bunch of control on the movie about what it was going to be about. It's like, I want to do something about the environment. You're going to save the environment with a shotgun. Okay.
Isn't this where
Yeah.
he decided he was going to be Native American in this movie? 'Cause
Exactly.
He was
Yes.
wearing like
Yes. That was
with the
yes.
tassels and like all of a sudden he like okay.
That's
Okay.
it. That's it.
All right.
But still better than Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
That's right.
Way better. Way better. Okay.
Next one we have. This is going to be a
this
hard
was
one.
a
Exit Wounds
no.
versus
This
Universal
is
Soldier.
this is the easier one, brother. This is the easy one because Universal Soldier is a much more enjoyable film. And while again, no qualms to the great DMX and everything so that, but he is superiorly better than Steven Seagal in that movie. But Dolph Lundgren's I think major return to action films, and it has it was almost Universal Soldier's almost a comic book movie to a certain extent. You would think it would be based off a graphic novel or something because it's extreme, but it works. So this is one of John Claude's better films.
And spawned a franchise. They
It
did
did.
like 4 or 5 of these.
Yeah, they did. And I think he comes back for I think 2 more sequels, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's in one major. I think he does an appearance in another one. This was technically John Claude Van Damme's Fast and Furious kind of thing. I think this is the only franchise, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they should have made more Time Cops, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I will say though, this was the first time that Steven Seagal blended into like the hip hop like scene because he did a lot of other movies with other rap hip hop stars. So this is a tough one for me because Universal Soldier, the theme was good, but the movie was not good in my opinion. I'm kind of on the fence between these two, to be honest with you. I think the concept in Universal Soldier was better, but I don't know if it was a better film. But if you all think Universal Soldier is better, two against one.
I think on this one again, we could check the Rotten Tomato scores, but I think Universal Soldier just because it was a better storyline, and you had John Claude Van Damme did pretty good acting in this movie as well. Not to say that Excellent is also not equally one of Steven Seagal's finer outings, but the fight scene between Dolph Lundgren and John Claude Van Damme, there was some really good material there. So that's why I said overall story wise, I thought Universal Soldier had a better story than Exit Wounds had.
The Rotten Tomatoes are equal. They're about 33 and 34%.
I never thought we'd see an equal on that one.
So, Dr. Brantley, I guess it's up to you, sir.
Well, I did see Exit Wounds in a theater,
Yeah, I
but
did too.
it's Universal Soldier.
Okay, Universal Soldier. Next up, Sudden Death versus Fire Down Below.
This was tough because both of these were pieces of crap.
I saw Sudden Death. I saw Sudden Death in the theaters, the hockey one.
Yeah,
and I actually liked the concept was cool. It was like Die Hard in a hockey arena a bit. I think it was one, in my opinion, Van Damme's more like better films, not his best.
Yeah, but I've seen that concept several times though. I think there was also
not in a hockey ring.
Well, but stadium wise, because there's Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage. That was a Brian De Palma film, and that was about a boxing match in some major arena. And then I know years later, Jackie Chan did one that was also in some kind of arena.
But those were both after this, though.
Well, true.
Right?
It's just that the concept. Well, I'm pretty sure we can find the concept before. I think Any Given Sunday or something like, or no, there was another. There's one about the Super Bowl that there was a big heist or something. So I've seen that before, but. Yeah, you convinced me, Chris. I think John Claude's acting was a tad bit better than Fire Down.
I thought it was good. It was like like very Die Hard.
This is Peter Hyams directed this, and I really like most of his movies. He did Running Scared with Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal. He did 2010, which is an underrated sequel to 2001. It's a very different movie, but it's a hard science fiction movie. So he did all these, going from genre to genre, trying different things, and I do think it's one of Van Damme's better ones.
Yeah, I remember he beats the shit out of like the mascot. That was one of the things in, like the bathroom, like the penguin or something, because it was actually like the Pittsburgh Penguins. So. I think Sudden Death wins this one. All right, next up, Out for Justice versus The Quest.
This one's an easy one because, boy, like I said again, I knew as we were picking the subject of this, because I know this all started with a joke that Chet and I came up with, but I knew this was going to be either good or bad. And The Quest is hands down one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's strangest action films, because it's I don't know what to make of it. It's more like Enter the Dragon and some form of mysticism involved. It's just, it's like way out there, but Out for Justice is equally. This is one of those films where I remember people were like, "Who is the guy that's in this movie?" Like that. Like again, it's this and Above the Law. If he doesn't make these two films, he doesn't have a career in Hollywood.
Yeah, I like it. Was that scene, the bar scene, where he's like, "I'm looking for anybody seen Nico?" Or where's Nico? And then he like breaks everyone's hands and like takes like that's an iconic thing. And this was, I think, the first one, one of his best. So for me, it's easy. Out for Justice.
Definitely.
Dr. Brantley, do you agree?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Next is The Glimmer Man versus Death Warrant.
Whoa, this is
Glimmer Man is awful.
I don't know what's going on with his computer tonight, or it could be his internet.
It could be Steven Seagal. Like, listen,
it could be. You shut him off and everything.
Because as soon as he said the Glimmer Man's awful, Steven Seagal's people disconnected you.
It's Russian trolls are trying to make sure this never gets out.
Okay.
I don't remember Death Warrant. I'm trying to remember what, like, was he in prison or something? I don't remember this one.
Yeah, it was kind of forgettable. Glimmer Man, the funny aspect about this too is that this one has Keenan Ivory Wayans, but he was also going the downward spiral of his career, because there was a certain point where he was on a high, and then it started getting down to the mediocre films. And I think this was the way they thought, well, we could save two things. Hey, it worked before, let's do this again. you
Oh.
could watch Glitter Man. You could sit through it at least, you know.
Death Warrant, he goes undercover in a prison.
Yeah.
This was written by David Goyer while he was still a film student at USC.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Look at that.
But
the Glimmer Man was, really
was
bad.
so bad that I'm gonna have to go with Death Warrant.
Really? Wow. You like Glitter Man was bad, but I could sit through it again. Death Warrant, I saw it once, it was forgettable.
I don't want to see either of them again.
Well, that's just true.
Isn't it funny that I don't remember Death Warrant, but like I remember Glimmer Man.
Yeah. Well, you remember.
But Glimmer Man was really bad. But Glimmer Man was terrible, partly because they got the wrong Wayans brother in it. That's the.
I think so.
It should have been Damon Wayans to begin with.
I will give you credit on that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is when Keenan was trying to be an action star because he did this, the Low Down Dirty Shame, a couple of those movies, and it didn't work out so well.
I mean, I'm only gonna because I gotta say, Glimmer Man was so bad. Like Death Warrant for me, it wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't.
We'll roll it. We'll roll it. There's no argument that could be made for either of these.
So this is an interesting one. Do you all remember No Retreat, No Surrender?
I do remember that.
Where Van Damme played the Russian bad guy. Like this was his first one of his first films, and he was actually really good. I mean,
that's technically inaccurate. He was in another major Hollywood blockbuster before this, but they eventually rolled him out, and that was Predator. He was the Predator. So this is on the second part of this tour, but. No, you know what? Even though it's such a disappointment from the first film, because if Steven Seagal has a, let's say, a la perfect film, it's Under Siege. I remember going to the theater thinking, "Wow, Under Siege 2 is gonna," but I'm like, a train? Well, okay, let's see how this works, and it just did not work.
What was it? Eric Bogosian was the bad guy in that one. It's like you had Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey in the first one.
Yep.
And the hot girl. I forget her name.
Yeah.
Right? But Under Siege 2 was awful. Also, did the trailer.
The cook from Under Siege is back.
I'm not even a good cook, but there are some things I'm good at.
Yeah,
I knew it. I fucking knew it. I knew it. You were responsible.
We're gonna have to start having the editor cut into like an actual scorecard on the top of the keys. It's like one for Julia worked on, two for Julia worked on. This is how you know.
This poster rivals Catwoman as far as the worst poster in cinematic history. I will also say, did you all see this in the theater?
Yes.
No. I saw it at work, and that was too much.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
So I saw this in the theater, and the scene where he's running as the train is exploding and folding into and he's running with the his hands flailing like the Seagal in slow motion. It was supposed to be this iconic thing, and there was two guys in the very front of the theater, and they would be laughing. They must have been so high, and they were laughing the entire time this was happening, which ruined it for everybody else in the theater, but made it so good because that was so memorable. You have to see that scene. He thinks he's Tom Cruise running, and it's just so ridiculous. So Are we saying that No Retreat, No Surrender is advancing?
Even though I haven't seen it, I know it's better than Under Siege 2.
Well, let's wait. Let's run
tomato. Let's run tomato. Well, I gotta think that Under Siege 2's got to have a
Yeah.
pretty low score.
Look, this has got to
Really.
be next to Speed 2, one of the worst sequels ever made, and maybe
Yeah.
that should be one of our.
Unfortunately,
wow.
though, Keanu Reeves didn't walk out, didn't come back for that movie, and Steven Seagal chose to do this. That's the worst part about it. Now, they would have gotten a replacement for him. I could put it on Speed 2 level, but no, he goes to all level. He showed up for this.
So No Retreat, No Surrender got 80% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
But I will say it's a bit cheating because Van Damme is not like the star, the guy.
Of course.
It's, but, it counts and way better than Under Siege at, below 30%. Oh, there we go. Well, let me go back. Sorry. Let me go back.
Well, listen again.
All right, everyone. Technical difficulty.
Hey, that's the beautiful thing about this.
Hold on.
Because Chet's not here.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Everything would go smooth otherwise.
Yeah, Chet's blowing it. Now we are on the left side of the bracket. We have not moved on the right side. If you're enjoying this, please like, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. We have Above the Law versus Hard Target.
This one's the easier one for me. He's still Above the Law.
Yeah, because even though this was John Woo's first American movie, it was still not that good.
Do you remember him standing up on a motorcycle as it was other than punching out a snake, he was literally standing up on the motorcycle seat with his hands up. How can you? These are iconic scenes.
Close up of arrows. It was as much as Robin Hood.
Yeah, you've got to think too. The worst part is that this was the nucleus of John Woo's American debut, but also his films worked overseas. It just did not work in the American market, because I think he also does Mission Impossible 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And then he did Broken Arrow, and he never clicked in with an audience. And just over the Christmas era, John Woo had that Christmas film that just was completely unforgettable. So, somehow it just his overseas work just never worked in America, Okay. But yeah, Above the Law wins this one, man.
On Deadly Ground versus Universal Soldier.
Universal Soldier.
I think, yeah. Just because Steven Seagal does a bad Native American for this one.
Cultural appropriation.
We can't give him that, man.
Sudden Death versus Out for Justice.
Out for Justice. This is Out for Justice for me, man.
It's close, but I think Out for Justice just iconic 80s kick-ass movie.
Yeah, and
it's
Kelly
tough.
LeBrock in that one, right?
Yeah. No. It's a different one. I think, was it?
I think it might be Kelly LeBrock in Out for Justice.
Let's see. I thought it was another one. No. This is the first one, 91. The Kelly LeBrock, I think, is in the other bracket. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was his first one, 91. He had the wife beater on, and his hair was super slicked back, and he was from New York, and he was a cop. Yeah, to me, it's Out for Justice.
Well, you win, because I would have said Southern Death, but Out for Justice goes.
Okay. Death Warrant versus No Retreat, No Surrender.
I'm gonna say No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yeah, even though he's the bad guy or whatever, but still,
he did a good job as a bad guy, though.
Yeah, he's in the film, and not more than a cameo. Okay, so this is interesting because we have still a good mix of. It's not like right now this bracket is one side of a Seagal or one side, so there's some evenness here. Okay, next is Above the Law versus Universal Soldier.
I will say I enjoyed Above the Law a little bit better than Universal Soldier in this one. Yeah, Dr. Brilliant, this is a tough one, but
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with Universal Soldier.
Okay.
let's see. Above the Law got 50% Rotten Tomatoes, and Universal Soldier got 34% Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa. I would have thought
So,
Universal Soldier would have been a little higher than that, man.
so I'm going to
Wow.
go with Above the Law.
Okay.
And now we have Out for Justice versus No Retreat, No Surrender. Again, I'm going to go with the iconic Out for Justice,
I
Steven
gotta go Out
Seagal
for
film.
Justice. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have the final two, and they are both Steven Seagal. So
Whoa.
Jean-Claude
I did
Van
not
Damme
think this was gonna happen.
on the first bracket.
Oh.
We still have one bracket
Uh-oh.
left.
Uh-oh.
Steven Seagal has proven to have the two best films of this bracket. So
Wow.
it comes down to these two.
Now, check the scores on this one because it's been so long since I've seen both of these that I don't really remember which is which. Since Out for Justice and Above the Law might as well be the same title.
Pretty much.
Well, it's kind of unfair because, like, you know, back then there's only like 22 reviews critics. So we'll go by like an audience score. Out for Justice is 53% Rotten Tomatoes, and Above the Law Rotten Tomatoes a little bit more on the critic side because it's a little bit newer, 50% for critics and 48 audience. So it's pretty close.
Yeah, they're both kind of neck and neck. You know, like I said, I think Out for Justice is his debut film, and again, I think that which film is a little bit better. I know he had a little bit more refining point, but like no one expected Out for Justice to launch somebody's career. And that's the only reason why I'll go with it. It's because it's the first time we're really introduced to him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand any of the habits or forms that he's done. And it wasn't like he had any catchphrases or anything. And so when you think of a performance for him, this is like one of his purest and first performances, and it shapes his entire career. So I'm going to say Out for Justice.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'll go with Out for Justice.
Okay, so Out for Justice is a winner of the first bracket. And now on to the second bracket. Pretty easy, Under Siege versus Wake of Death.
We don't even need to do a Rotten Tomato score because we know Under Siege had a damn good one. Yeah, he gets this. You know, I got a bad feeling that Van Damme may be in some trouble here.
We'll see. We'll see.
Who would have known? I didn't think this was going to be the case.
Now, who could forget Double Impact?
Wow. Wow. Ooh.
I don't even know what the hell The Foreigner is. I've never seen it, so I can't. All I know that Double Impact was terrible too. So I mean, I give kudos to Van Damme for trying to play. I mean, it was, the same character, but just with different outfits.
Hard on the cast and the crew and the directors because he had to do 2 performances that day, and that must have been a real murder for everybody else. I remember The Foreigner, and The Foreigner is also kind of forgettable, but I can't ever watch Double Impact again. I just can't do it.
Oh, come on. It's Double Van Damme. It says so right there. I got to go with Double Impact as, he's really stretching,
I agree.
Hair slicked back. It's like,
I think if they would have just,
I'm a good guy.
I think it's because they couldn't get the actual title rights to Double Dragon. That's why they call it Double Impact. So,
yeah, I agree.
You guys win. Take Double Impact.
It's
not going to last long, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh,
boy.
Yes. Now, Marked for Death this is where he goes to Jamaica, right?
Yeah. Because remember his films were there was some Jamaicans in the first movie. Then he kills some more Jamaicans. Then he goes to Jamaica to kill.
Yeah, he got something. He got something against the Jamaicans.
He had some problems in the first 3 films with Jamaicans. I'll tell you that. But
I hate those guys that smoke the reefer.
Yeah, but Street Fighter was so bad that the great Ross Julia never made it past that film. Man.
It killed Raul Julia.
Wow, man. That movie, if there's ever, when we do this bracket again, the most disappointing video game adaptation, because we probably have hundreds of those, but this got is supreme to the top because I am a major Street Fighter fan. And I remember going to the theater, seeing this movie, and like almost having tears in my eyes at how bad this film was. Because I was like, wow, they just didn't even get any character
Mr.
right in
Storm.
that film.
Mr.
Wow.
Storm. Mr.
Yeah.
Storm. I got Mark for Death got a 27% Rotten Tomatoes. Are you telling me that you think are you telling me Street Fighter got a worse Rotten Tomatoes score than 27%?
Oh, I know it did.
I'm gonna guess 12%.
I don't even think that. If there's ever a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes, Street Fighter's got to take it.
It got 11%
I knew that. Yeah, because that movie is wow. It was such a disappointment. Like it's again, I had played all the video games. I was obsessed with Street Fighter 2. This movie comes out, and I'm like, what did they? Other than I think there's a Dragon Ball movie that they made, and I was like, wow, that's like the modern day Street Fighter. It's like wow.
This movie made Mortal Kombat like Bruce Lee film.
I liked Mortal Kombat, that first one.
But I'm saying it made it like a Bruce Lee classic. That's how bad Street Fighter was.
And I'll tell you, I'd rather watch Super Mario Brothers than this.
Yes.
Bob Hoskins and Leguizamo.
So I guess the question of the night is, did your company work on the trailer for Street Fighter? I think
we did not.
Yeah,
strangely enough.
It was so bad they wouldn't touch it. So that's a
Mark for Death. All right. Next is JCVD versus Today You Die.
Easy one for this one. Jean-Claude Van Damme has a grasp on self-humor. And I give him credit. I think this is after my man's killing us tonight. Well, he's gonna have to do some editing tonight because who would have known what's going on with his computer? This has got to be maybe a service attack. Hey, do you think it's the service?
I don't know. It's because I've never had this happen.
I've never seen it happen
except when we first started on here. So it might just be my internet.
It could be because again, no one was thinking that Thursday night, Friday night, probably a strong night to get the servers up. All right, so let's start again.
So who is in Today You Die with Mr. Seagal?
I believe that's Trench from the Naughty by Nature. The rap group.
I thought that was a Wish version of one of the Wayans brothers. Timu Wayans.
Almost. No, but I believe JCVD is after he did the Amazon Van Damme series that he poked fun at himself. And that's also the side note. If no one's ever seen it, you should watch it because he is absolutely funny as hell in this. But JCVD, he just does a great job of mocking himself, and it's an enjoyable film. And I think that was his resurgence film, if I'm not mistaken, as well, because that was heavily. A lot of people walked away really surprised at how well that movie was.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're underestimating the tagline here. What Seagal does in Vegas nearly destroys it. I mean, how can you compete with that tagline?
That must be based off an autobiography, because I can see that really happening. Like, yeah, no, it's Jean-Claude on this one. He's winning.
Yeah. Next up, Kickboxer versus Out for a Kill.
I don't remember Out for a Kill. It sounds like one of his movies.
I remember it.
Yeah, it's not. It was like his attempt to try to like do the Out for Justice, but it was really bad. And Kickboxer is one of Van Damme's better films, so it's not even close here.
It's one of the ones where you see the most iconic images from is Kickboxer.
Yeah.
Next up, Time Cop versus Contract to Kill.
I remember Contract Kill. Oh my god! Wow, I can't believe I sat through most of this crap. Whoa, like man. But this one's an easy one. I think Dr. Brittley and myself, we went to the theater to see Time Cop together, right?
Yeah, I remember that. Dark Horse comic.
I remember that, yeah.
Man, it was good. And I think this is probably his best movie as an all around as a movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think so as well. Yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's one of the better comic book related films. I don't know how accurate it is because I did read like the first issue of Time Cop, and I thought it was dramatically different of what they got to the screen. But it's a great film, and I was always surprised that he never quite came back for a sequel. And I think they did a TV series off of this that wasn't as well as what Jean-Claude Van Damme had done. So
yeah, Ron Silver is the bad guy, and Mia Sara as his wife, and she was great too.
Yeah,
playing like the different realities and stuff, and it was really cool. So
this gave me hope because now I know that Jean-Claude and Steven's going to go head to head because for a while it looked like Steven versus Steven. So wow,
one of the cooler posters as well, and
yes,
one of the infamous scenes of him doing the splits across the counters in that film too. So you figure it would have catapulted him into a different, but then he went and did more crap movies, so it was kind of very interesting. But yep, Time Cop, clearly the winner here. Here's the one with Kelly LeBrock, Hard to Kill. And I don't know what the hell this is, the hardcore, but Vivica A. Fox and Van Damme. I didn't even know they made a film.
Now I know which one's the worst film is because you have Miss Lifetime on it, the Vivica A. Fox. So I will say no. I remember Hard to Kill. Yeah, this was the apex. I think of like before you knew like he doesn't have too many of these left to go. But yeah, Hard to Kill is a great movie.
Yeah, and
this is where he was in a coma, right, for like 40 years and woke up or something, right? Is this the one where I don't remember? I think so. He was like in a coma. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can play coma.
Well, he's done that half his career. What are you talking about?
Next is Lionheart versus Code of Honor.
And I've seen Code of Honor too. Jeez Christ, I can't believe I watched so many of these crap movies.
You got a lot of time on your hand to be able to watch these terrible movies.
You know what it is? I have terrible insomnia, brother. I'm up all night, so sometimes crap just comes on and you just feel it. But no, Lionheart's actually a better film.
Yeah, this is underground fighting.
What was that now?
Okay. This is the movie. He's like an underground fighter or something. Lionheart, I think I remember that. Yeah. Okay. Now, Under Siege versus Stumble Impact. Very
easy one. Under Siege wins on that. Sorry, Double.
Mark for Death in JCVD.
JCVD. Yeah. Sorry, Jamaicans.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, this might be the toughest matchup.
Yeah. Oh.
This is a tough
one. It is. Oh, my God.
I have to go with Time Cop, but this is really close because Kickboxer is probably his most iconic movie that people know him from.
Yeah.
Oh man, they just did us dirty on this one. Yeah, like it's his most iconic film, but I think his best acting is in Time Cop. So I've got to go Time Cop as well. Wow.
And do you agree, Chris, or were you gonna have?
Yeah. It's just like the concept, like okay,
yeah,
I think Hard to Kill, in my opinion, is.
I think Hard to Kill does get this one as well. Ooh, this one. While this one is tough. But it's only tough because I like JCVD, but Under Siege is like Steven Seagal's best film. It is an all-around great film. And it's one of the only ones where you walk out the theater like, wow, that was pretty good. And then you're disappointed by the rest of his career. So, yeah.
Who directed Under Siege?
I think it was the guy that did The Fugitive.
Oh, okay. And that gets a little point. Well, look, it's basically Under Siege. I remember through the conversations, people kind of said it was like truly the one Die Hard on the ship, and it technically was. If you want to give him that kind of analogy, it is Die Hard on the ship, and you didn't need Bruce Willis in it, and it's extremely well. And while the other things, yeah, and it's just like, it's like all the acting was well. The people that were in the Pentagon combat room, they're great. He has classic villains.
Even just the plan to take over the ship was a great plan.
Yeah.
They did it all very well. Yeah, Under Siege.
Yeah, and this director, he did do The Fugitive.
Okay.
He did
It's Andrew something, right?
Yeah, Andrew Davis. He did Code of Silence, the early Chuck Norris film.
Okay.
Yeah, he's done a few interesting films here. So The Package with Gene Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay.
It looks like he's worked with Tommy Lee Jones a few times, but yeah, this is Under Siege, and now Time Cop versus Hard to Kill.
Time Cop.
I still gotta say Time Cop on this one.
Now I know where we're coming. This is tough.
I mean, here's the thing: is Under Siege is not just a good Steven Seagal movie. It is one of the best action movies of all time. So,
yeah.
And Tommy Lee Jones was nominated for the Best Supporting Actor.
I remember that.
Or was he? Maybe he was
not for this movie.
I don't think.
No, not for this.
No, he was nominated for The Fugitive.
For The Fugitive, yes. But he was he made this movie. Gary Busey.
Gary Busey's fantastic, man.
I think Time Cop could have been better. But Under Siege was almost a perfect action film.
There's a difference. Time Cop is, if you put it in the comic book films, it's a great comic book adaptation of a film. But Under Siege is probably in the top 50 of best action movies of its time. So it's just unmistakably great. And it's one, every time it's on, you can recite lines from the movie and you can watch it again and again. It's just a perfect film for Steven Seagal.
I am very surprised because we're going to end up with Seagal versus Seagal.
We are.
And I did not think that was going to happen.
And that's probably because we didn't put the 50 DVD releases at Walmart.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is, like, we definitely have eliminated more garbage from Seagal's portfolio than we did Jean-Claude. But Steven Seagal had the better collection of films. There's no question.
Yeah.
So I think we're saying Under Siege, and the final two is Under Siege versus Out for Justice.
Under Siege.
And if you look at the bracket here,
I know
you had the final 3 of the 4 of the Seagal movies. If you look at the 8, it was Seagal, Jean-Claude, Seagal, Jean-Claude, Seagal, Jean-Claude. So it was a good mixture of
but I would say
8.
It narrowed it down to these two stars, action stars, best films. And like Time Cop is essentially Jean-Claude Van Damme's best film, best acting film, best overall written story for him. And Under Siege is also equally the best for Steven Seagal. So, but who would have thought, like, again, as we were laughing early in the week, we were like, oh, Seagal loses his hands down. And as we're going over these films, like, wow, like, it really kind of shocked me. Maybe we took the dude for, we just took him for granted. Maybe, maybe he was better in era than we thought, man.
Look, he can make his own hair grow back. So
he can.
He's got more hair now than when he was 30.
Yeah, I think his only regret, I think that it would have been nice to see him in the originals Expendables with all those great action stars. I think that's the only thing that I think that would be a regret, is that it would have been nice to see him and all those stars together.
There was too much ego to fit on the plane.
True.
The plane would have crashed with Seagal's ego on the plane. So Steven Seagal wins this matchup, excluding the terrible the portfolio of movies is clearly the worst of Seagal, but the best films is Steven Seagal. And now, inevitably, he will have to face the final boss, which is Nicolas Cage. And will he be able to survive the series of Nick Cage films? Will we do a bracket elimination matchup? We will see. But that could be a future episode. Nick Cage versus Steven Seagal. Who had the best films?
I know we were talking and then we were kind of going over things and letting the audience in for a change. But I know we were also talking about Arnold versus Sly. and whose career is better. So, you know, these bracket challenges has really worked. I think it opens discussion up, and it also brings you back to actually really thinking about the careers of some of these actors that now are kind of like going into the sunset. And you know, again, I like it opened my eyes a little bit more to appreciate the Steven Seagal. I will hands down say that I did some slander to Mr. Seagal earlier, but this kind of opened up my light that there was a lot of enjoyable moments that he was a part of too, and it's equally the same as Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, the thing about those films too, do you remember any of the characters' names in the films other than
No.
Under Siege?
No,
Casey
I don't remember
Ryback,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Like I remember, like that's that. But every other film, I don't have a clue what their names
Yeah.
were. And it's the same thing with, like, if you think about Arnold and Sylvester Stallone films, how many of them do you remember Arnold's name, and how many do you in
Conan.
Stallone's? Like
Conan, Dutch,
Lambo,
yeah, you know,
Rocky.
yeah,
They
have,
the name.
They do, yeah, they do have the more iconic names and familiarity.
That's right.
But
right.
John Matrix.
But I think
Judge Dredd.
I think with Seagal and Van Damme, we remember their moves and certain scenes, so that's what gives them a timeless element to them as well. You know, it's just like, you know, I remember we were laughing about the ones and dones, and it was like, you know, Kevin Speakman, and it was like, wow, he just had that one film, and I remember the scenes, but I don't remember anything that man has done after that. Or Jeff Speakman, I'm sorry. You know,
what was
in his explosive motion picture debut, Jeff Speakman is the perfect weapon.
You know, it's just sometimes you remember scenes. I think Seagal and Van Damme have built very good scenes and not so many memorable characters. But, you know, Under Siege will be something I can watch 100 times. Time Cop, something I could watch 100 times. It's kind of fun to go back and look at these films. And again, just get an overall better appreciation of some of these actors that we have given major slander to over the last couple of years.
And what Speakman was The Perfect Weapon?
Perfect Weapon. That was the movie, The Perfect Weapon. Perfect Weapon. One and done.
Is the perfect weapon.
Mm-hmm. So,
now,
yeah.
I don't think, you know, I'm thinking about like those one and dones. That might be an interesting concept.
Michael Dudikoff.
And what was the other guy's name?
There was the Jim Cotta movie with the gymnast.
No, but what was the black guy in American Ninja? Steve James, who was it was him and Michael Dudikoff, and he was just like ripped. He was like ripped out of his mind. Corporal Curtis Jackson, American Ninja 3. Those were great movies. Those were like, but they made 3 of those, and that was it. You never saw Michael Dudikoff again.
Was that American Ninja 3 Domination or something like that?
It was, yeah. That's why I say we're gonna do one and done's bracket challenge, because there's a lot of one and done's in this industry too, you know. But they, at least, you know, here's the thing: we are still talking about Mr. Speakman wherever he's at, so he just gets a level. He just burnt it to the back of your mind. So this was fun, man. I always like when we come up with these elimination brackets.
Here's an interesting thing. So originally the studio wanted Chuck Norris to star in American Ninja, but he didn't want to have to cover up his face. So they asked Michael Dudikoff, but he had no martial arts experience, but he was very athletic. So that gives you some sense of...
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. Chuck Norris is like, I'm not wearing a ninja mask. Chuck Norris. You know. He got to have that beard visible.
Exactly.
No, you can't cover this moneymaker.
Yeah, you know, hey, it's made him billions of dollars for Texas Walker Rangers. So, you know,
that's right.
Got to give him credit on that. So, you know, hey, the man knows his style, man.
Yep. Well, this was fun. I'm shocked. I knew that Under Siege would be there, but I didn't know that Steven Seagal would have the best of films. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Again, we'll be live next week, 7 p.m. Pacific time, multi-streaming. You could find us here on the Shadow Knows Network. Mr. Chet Maddox will be back with us on a full recap of his booze cruise with Jay and Silent Bob. But as always, before we wrap up, a note to our sponsors, Mr. Storm.
Hey, well, like I said, again, if you're looking for, if there were ever action figures made to Steven Seagal or Jean-Claude Van Damme, then I'm probably sure you can pop up at Toys versus Games in Wilmington, California. They would have that because no major store is going to carry that stuff. But small mom and pops, you might be able to find some nostalgia, something back that you can't go into your local Targets, your Walmarts, and any of those stores to do. Every week, we say thank you to our sponsors, Toys versus Games. If you go on Instagram, it's Toys, and the word, not the entire word, just VS and Games. So check them out. Go over there, spend some of their dollars. Don't always spend it for the big box stores. Let's help the mom and pops out. And if there's any other mom and pop stores out there that want to reach out and want to plug, hey, we'll be more than happy to do that on the Shadowe Crew Network because we're small and we love to help out the little guys as well.
That's right. And plenty of content on the channels. So if this is the first time, or maybe a few times that you've listened in, we've got a lot of cool stuff. Again, some classic retrospect series by Mr. Storm and Dr. Brantley. More to come, including a retrospect on the Indiana Jones and films like it, which is very cool. So looking forward to that. In addition, we've got the Toy Box Chronicles, Mr. Storm and Chet Maddox, kind of spending a good amount of time talking about the toys of the past, the present, the future, including last episode, it was G.I. Joe versus Mask.
It was.
So for those of you who remember the toys, including G.I. Joe, that's still popular, but if you don't remember Mask, very similar. So that was a really good discussion. And then we got the retro review show with Chet and I. Take a look at it. We did toys from 1985 and 1986, kind of combing through ads, talking about all that stuff. And then soon to be posted on the channel, we did a very exclusive deep dive into Toys R Us, which I thought was a really fun episode. Dr. Brantley, who gave us exclusive behind the scenes insight into his time with the company, but that is going to be hitting the channel soon. So I think everyone who's listening has either heard and or has spent a lot of time in the Toys R Us, so it's really interesting. But lots of other stuff, new Shadowe Knows toy finds. We got the Tech Master, some wrestling recaps. So the channel is growing. Like, subscribe. We appreciate the follow. We appreciate you all tuning in. Drop us a comment. But that's all we have. Any last departing words?
No,
I apologize to Mr. Seagal.
Yeah.
I spoke ill of him, and I forgot some of the good stuff that he had done.
I will say we're underappreciated. These two fine actors, and I just, again, any slander that's pointed, it's not the views of the Shadowe Knows Network. It's personally my own. I'd like to apologize right now, right out the bat. Please forgive me, Mr. Seagal. Mr. Van Damme, I know you're watching. Thank you guys for your continued efforts in the action universe.
Yeah.
The Shadowe Crew Podcast.